Yo, people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for another update. Well, my first real update, because I've kind of kept myself together, calmly, composedly, quietly in my corner to not speak on anything as the day transpired. Lateness is greatness. Big up your damn selves in the building. Make sure you smash up the likes. There's been too much going on today. Today has been chaotic. It's been carnage. It's been chaos in terms of the Chelsea community and the news flying about. There's been so many different outlets saying so many different things. And I didn't want to come in and give my 2 cents and give my opinion without actually being informed and knowing what was actually going on. I didn't want to confuse you guys and come with a news video that would be irrelevant and disregarded within 5-10 minutes because there was just that much going on. So I said, you know what? I'm going to wait until the end of the day, wait until everything shuts down, all the journos go to sleep, and then we're going to discuss and discombobulate and dismantle everything that's going on and get straight into it. So let's get straight into it at that. We're going to start off by obviously giving you a little play of this comp because Juranovic from Celtic, the Croatian right back that we all saw at the World Cup, is of interest to Chelsea. Now, the fee that's been spoken about is around about £8 million from Celtic fans, and I will be trying to get a Celtic fan on this channel. I have already been in contact with a content creator, Celtic fan. Hopefully, we can get them sorted and on the channel for everything you need to know, because we've seen him obviously in the World Cup, and he was probably one of the 2 best World Cup right backs out there, along with Hakimi from Morocco. Certainly that everybody was very impressed with. His contract is there until 2027. It's a long-term contract, but it seems like he could be available if we go in with the right price. From the Celtic fan that I speak to and a few Celtic fans that I speak to that follow the club, he won't be going for as cheap as 6 to 8 million, whatever it's been touted. That is very unlikely from what they say. And it's not surprising considering his contract is 2027. And it's not surprising with the amount of money that Chelsea clearly have to splash and to spend. It would be shocking if we were to get a player that dirt cheap who's had a great World Cup. But it is a player that we're interested in. It's a player that we should be going in for a right back. I've said it in the summer. I was pretty cutthroat about it. A lot of people didn't like it, but I felt like Azpilicueta needed to leave. I saw a lot of regressing from him last season in the team, and he's getting on in age, and he's not athletic, he's not attacking, and unfortunately, he's not what we need in the modern day and the modern era at that position to replace Reece James, who is unfortunately, undisputedly injury prone at the moment, or at least is susceptible to injuries. If we don't want to say injury prone, which I would rather not, because we would all like to cling to the situation that is Reece James and pray to God that he's actually fully fit to, play games and be a mainstay in the team. But unfortunately, at the moment, he is susceptible to injuries at the very least. Yes, there is an ad. I will not pay you, YouTube. You will pay me. So let's get into it. So yes, right back needs to come in. We've also been linked with obviously, Gusto at Lyon and a few others, Frimpong at Bayer Leverkusen, Dumfries as well. It will be interesting to see who Chelsea actually formally put a bid on the table for, but they need a right back. They needed one last summer. They needed one 2 summers ago when Thomas Tuchel was going after Hakimi and his wife or girlfriend decided that they would live in Paris. We've always needed a right back to come in. We need the competition, and we should be inspired by the competition that we've seen from Reece James and from Chilwell and Cucurella, so to speak, at left. On the left back situation, Chilwell was injured against Bournemouth, but we didn't really miss him because we had Cucurella playing in that back 4 on the left side. He was very, very, very good against Bournemouth, and he was kind of playing in his natural position. He's not a wing back. He's not good enough in terms of attacking the box and scoring the goals. He's never really given goals and output in that manner, like a Marcus Alonso or Chilwell who started to do that. Maybe he could develop into it. Left side centre back, he can play there, but we've been looking for left-footed centre backs as well. So maybe long term, that's definitely not the way to go. We've got Levi Colwill. We've been bidding. We've been looking at Vardiol. We look like we're going to be getting in a centre-back later on, which we'll discuss from Monaco. So for that reason, left-back is where he'll be playing in that back 4, and he looked really good. So hopefully he can start to show why we spent so much money. I believe he'll still be a very good player for us. There was a reason Manchester City was interested. They didn't want to go as high as we did on the price, which is fair enough. We definitely overpaid because we wanted to keep Colwill. Remember, that was the trade-off. That's the reason why we spent a little bit more, because we wanted to keep Colwill and we didn't want to give him away as part exchange. So we loaned him out and we kept him and spent a bit more. And I think that was the right decision. And I think they wanted him as a Carl Walker type replacement to be, pacey and to recover on transitions on the left-hand side for Cancelo if he had to switch over. And they didn't get that. They got Gomez instead. I do believe he's a good player, Cucurella, and we need equal competition on that right-hand side. We looked poor yesterday once Reece James came off. We conceded 8 shots on goal against Bournemouth as opposed to 1 when he was on the pitch. Even though he wasn't even at his brilliant best, he was a little bit rusty at times, but Reece James undisputedly is our best player in my opinion, and we need serious backup for him. I think Koulibaly played on that right side of defence to negate him getting forward and make sure that there was recovery pace instead of having Silva on the right side, so he could have some recovery pace behind him and he didn't have to overexert himself to get back. But, you know, listen, whether or not we've handled that situation correctly by giving him all those minutes, and he obviously got injured in around the 55th minute or whatever it was after half time, we have to live with that, and hopefully he comes back 4 to 6 weeks, up to a month. We'll see what happens with Reece James. Moving on. So Enzo Fernandez, everybody, I'll leave this comp on because this is a player that we don't know too well. Obviously, you guys enjoy and make of the reservations or make the conclusions you wish to make, but we don't really take conclusions from comps for sure. But it's good to see what Juranovic is up to. But we'll definitely be trying to get a Celtic fan on, like I said, to really get the ins and outs of the player like we usually do on the Everything You Need to Know series. But at the moment, you know, Juranovic had a great World Cup. You know, some few thoughts on him. I think personally, he looks like a tidy player. He looks press resistant. He looks good on the ball. Whether or not he's going to give us the same attacking impetus that Reece James has down the right-hand side in terms of crossing, in terms of finishing, I'm not too sure. But for sure, a good player in terms of technically, can definitely build up through, which is important because I think Aspie build up play wise is not the strongest going down that side. And yeah, you know, hopefully defensively, you know, he shows what he showed at the World Cup. Moving on to Enzo Fernandez. Now, this is a player that all day there has been talk. He's been the talk of the town. Will Chelsea exercise their financial, you know, use their financial muscle to exercise his release clause of £106 million? You know, will we splash the cash, so to speak, on this player in January and just pay the release clause, pay Todd Bowie and don't speak, is what a lot of people have been saying on Twitter. Because we need a midfielder desperately. He was obviously the young player of the year at the World Cup. He was extraordinary. He's been brilliant for Benfica. For anyone who needs reminding, I did an episode with Rabona TV, aka Adrian, on Enzo Fernandez. We also spoke about João Felix, a former Benfica player, and we also spoke about Diego Moreno as well, the young attacking midfielder, left-sided midfielder that we were looking at from Benfica's under-20s. So we had a whole Benfica episode. We have a history of Benfica. We definitely have a history of Benfica. We signed Ramirez. We signed David Luiz. We signed Matisse. You know, so we've signed a lot of great players from Benfica, and we should have kept that relationship going because we could have had some more Benfica players. Do you know what I'm saying? But their recruitment has been top notch. Their youth academy has been producing great players. And Enzo Fernandez is in fact a player apparently that reportedly that Brighton were actually tracking before Benfica snapped him up from River Plate alongside with Wolves. And Brighton, of course, we have half their recruitment team. So it's not really surprising to see us go for players that Brighton were scouting or were trying to get, like Fofana, who Chelsea announced today is a closed and done deal. They've announced him. He'll be joining in January from Mulder, another player that Brighton was scouting. It's not a surprise that we take Brighton's former manager, we take their scouts, we take their recruitment team, and we start to take the targets that they were tracking and we put the money on it and go a lot more aggressively with those players. Now, in terms of Enzo Fernandez, I really, really like the player. I definitely want the player. No doubts about it. You know how desperate I am from a central midfielder. I'm not scarred about the price. We haven't spent money in midfield since Theresa May. We have not spent money in midfield for donkey's years since Jorginho and Kova came in under Sarri. This is a position that has been neglected, that has not been revamped, that has not been replenished, that has not been, you know, rejuvenated. It's a position that we have been starving for years. Tchouameni we've missed out on. So many players. Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle is having a fantastic couple of seasons. Fantastic season. Obviously joined in January. Fantastic half of the season last season. And he looks exceptional. Casemiro's coming at Manchester United, looks exceptional. Rodri for Manchester City today, exceptional. Partey for Arsenal, exceptional. We can see that we need a midfield. We need a new midfield going forward. And that's why I want one in January and one in the summer. Are we going to get Enzo Fernandez in that time? In January, I have my reservations. And now that, you know, it's all come out because, of course, like I said, people were saying that we were potentially going to be bringing in this player in January. We were going to pay the release clause. I wanted to wait to see if anybody would have anything to say on that. And it appears, according to Fabrizio, Chelsea are having some concerns about whether or not they're going to be able to bring in him in that initial whole package, 106 million release clause immediately, cash up front. And the reason why is obvious, is because FFP. If Chelsea could structure this deal out and pay some cash and then the rest in installments and add-ons, then I have no doubts that Chelsea would put in an official public bid in January and we would move very aggressively. But because Benfica, as Rabona TV, Adrian said on this channel, they will not sell in January unless somebody triggers the release clause. They are very adamant on that. They're very aggressive on that. They don't have to sell. They, of course, have their own aspirations this season. Same with Darwin Núñez, who they just got rid of over the summer. They want big money for their players. They will not be pushovers. Rui Costa's already proven that. If we want him, we have to pay the release clause. If Chelsea pay that release clause, FFP becomes a little bit sticky. And there are some doubts over that. So if it all goes into one payment, it's a little bit sticky on an FFP front, and that's not really surprising. So that's why there are some reservations. And that's why I had some reservations on making this video too early and just saying that Chelsea are going to break the bank 106 million for Enzo Fernandez, because as great as it sounds and as exciting as it is a lot to ask for Chelsea to go ahead and do that. Under FFP, we'd have to sell some midfielders, maybe a Gallagher. If you were to get a 35 to 40 million for Gallagher in January and sell him and reap some of that money back in, then you could make it make sense if a Ruben Loftus-Cheek, if a bid came in for him. And that takes me on to Jorginho, who, again, today there were some rumors, reports rumbling around over Newcastle, whether he would go to Newcastle. Obviously, his contract is running out this summer. Will Chelsea look to cash in and bring in some money again for FFP in this situation of Enzo Fernandez? But apparently, reportedly, there has been a little bit of a back pedal on that one, as they feel like potentially he will not be good enough to come in terms of mobility issues, etc. They don't feel like he's the perfect player to come into their system. That was a report that came out later on in the day. Again, I was waiting to see if that was going to be something that transpired, and it appears that Chelsea will most likely not be getting an offer there from Newcastle for Jorginho. So it did feel a little bit out of nowhere. It would have been interesting to see if it happened. That report comes from Luke Edwards in the Telegraph. And yeah, we was waiting to see if that was going to really be concrete before I came out with a video on it. Jorginho, Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes as a midfield three. It sounded wild. It was very Brazilian. Obviously, he's Brazilian by native, Italian by nationality in terms of representing. But it sounded wild. It sounded intriguing. It sounded wild. It sounded mesmerizing, but it's not probably going to happen, according to that report. And also high wages is a concern for Newcastle as well. They do have money, but they look to spend it wisely, and they're trying to be very, very smart with each purchase. So yeah, just because they have money doesn't mean they're going to go ahead and splash it. So it doesn't look like that's going to be taking place. Of course, about João Felix, and we have, same episode with Adrian on that one. João Felix is an interesting situation because, of course, Man United and Arsenal and Chelsea are all put off by that 8 million loan obligation to buy. I think they would prefer options to buy for João Felix. Same situation. They want to recoup a lot of the money. His relationship, no matter what Diego Simeone wants to say publicly, is a little bit messy and hairy. He wants to go in January, but of course, I think Atletico Madrid are going to have to budge on their asking price or the way that they would like to structure any loan or permanent deal, because what they're asking for, all the top clubs at the moment are turning their heads away. So we'll have to see how that moves on and transpires. And of course, lastly, it is the French defender that we are chasing from Monaco as an alternative to Vardiol, which you will all know about at this point. And again, I will be looking for, and I am in the process of sorting out a guest for this player so we can get some ins and outs and insights of a week-to-week basis of how he plays, because of course I'm not watching Monaco games on a week-to-week basis. Since Tchouameni left, I haven't been watching any Monaco games. So how good is he? From what I've seen, from just purely, from a few clips and whatnot, and reading up about him as everybody does, he does look a little bit rash. Obviously he's young. That's down to the scouting team. Obviously, Stuart, former Monaco, part of their recruitment team's now joined us. So that he might have had little, dealings and connections in that. So I'm not surprised to see him involved and potentially in that deal, in getting that deal done. And it is a cheaper alternative to Vardiol, who's looking like he's going to cost 100 million. Again, FFP, maybe there's some concerns, but also competition coming in from Manchester City, from Real Madrid, etc. So there's a lot of competition for these players that we're going for. It's not easy to do these deals. And unfortunately, yeah, we might not be able to go for the top target of every single position that we're after. That's why you have scouts to go and find these players and to try and figure out if they're good enough to come and play for our football club. He didn't start for Monaco tonight, so it looks like as if he's already had his head turned. Maybe they're trying to make sure he's not injured. This deal is basically on the verge of getting a here we go. So it looks like it's definitely going to be happening in January and he's going to be coming in. And like I said, looks a little bit rash. I don't like rash defenders. Koulibaly's been a bit rash this season. I'm hoping that stops. You know, Upamecano for me is very rash. When he was at RB Leipzig and I was watching him because, of course, Ampadu was out on loan at RB Leipzig. And obviously, Konate was playing there as well. Upamecano, I didn't really want him because he looked a bit rash. But listen, he's young. Maybe he can be molded. He should be able to be molded and coached. Haven't seen much of him at all. Like I said, I haven't been watching him week to week. I will be getting an expert on, hopefully very soon, to talk on him. But that deal looks to be done pretty much for the centre-back, the left-footed centre-back. And in terms of Levi Colwill, I just hope he gets the opportunity because he's been playing very, very well at Brighton. And it looks like as if, for me personally, he's someone that can impact our first team more than you can believe, more than people expect. And very similar to Reece James in terms of the come-up from Championship to Premier League. Now he's finally getting his minutes. Webster was now injured, and that's where the minutes have come from. Great performance at the Emirates before the World Cup. Very good performance this week. Some Brighton fans are even saying it's going to be difficult for Webster to get back in the team. Don't write off Levi Colwill. If you don't rate him or you don't think that he's very good or you think he's been overhyped because he's Cobham, take it from someone who doesn't give a damn where he's from, because I haven't overhyped every Cobham player. Conor Gallagher, I have no problem taking money for him. Again, I wouldn't overhype every player from Cobham, but for me, Levi Colwill is someone that I really wanted to keep in the summer. I think his profile is very rare. There's not many left-footed young centre-backs going around. And as you can see, when they are given the opportunity to show what they can do and they actually prove it, they are worth some amount of money. So he's very good on the ball. He's very composed. He's not rash. He's built like Saliba. The frame is perfect for a centre-back. If you could build a centre-back, you'd build him like him. And he's now starting for Brighton and playing very well. So keep an eye on him for the rest of the season. And hopefully he gets an opportunity in pre-season. And I would not be surprised if he is actually an important part of our team next season, because I believe he's that good. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Big up your damn selves and smash up the likes, obviously, on this video. And I'll see you guys next time for another, tomorrow, triple upload. All you can eat Chelsea, Battle of the North and London Clubs Carnage. Until then, big up your damn selves. In a bit, people. Peace. Come on.